All right, let's take a look at your throw. I think to compare from last video, the first analysis we did, you are smoother and your rhythm is improved and you strike the discus really well. So you are working, down and into the ring. I see the improvement there, and you are you're faster. So good job. Everything is looking solid. What I want to pay attention with today is where your low point is with your discus and how to get your left foot off the ground faster. And those two things are going to help you get farther throws. So the first thing I want to look at is, again, where exactly your low point is. So right now, again, the discus is, right below your butt. You kind of hold that low position probably for a few frames. The thing I want to point out, though, so let's say this yellow line is the path of your discus. It looks to me like your low point, your low point is either right on this line or a little bit behind the line. The discus, the high and low point are always opposite of each other, or at least most of the time. So if your discus is low in one spot, 180 degrees from that is where it's going to be high, and they're going to go back and forth. The proper orbit will go in that pattern. But if your discus is low a little bit too early, or if you start bringing the discus up a little bit too high, I think that's where you run into some issues of a natural orbit, and like for you carrying that discus next to you. Again, and you know this from the last analysis, but rather than carry the discus next to you, you want to drag the discus. And I think one thing that will help you is if you pay attention and are really intentional about where your low point's at. And so if right now your low point is here, I want to see that low point. If you look here, from this frame up, you see how that disc is starting to rise? So here's the low point. Watch, now it's going to rise. Up, up, up. What I think I'd like to see is that to keep your low point like 2 more frames, keeping it lower and behind you. So again, just consciously be aware of where your discus is and make sure that it stays low a little bit longer. What that's going to do, it's going to force you to keep it behind you, because the discus rises, as you see, because it's next to you. Because like right now, you have your shoulder here and your right leg here, and they're moving together. They're kind of one unit. And so you're going to have to retrain your body to what that feels like to have that discus behind you. So you're just going to have to be intentional there and develop some stretch here. Again, we want the shoulders. This is a good angle to see. We want your shoulders and your hips to be at an angle, like crossing each other. And I would say right now your shoulders and hips are pretty much on the same plane. And so the only way to get the discus behind you is if your shoulder. So think about your right shoulder being behind you and keep that discus low for a couple frames longer. Again, the discus will rise. Of course, it has to get to its high spot, but hold it out a little bit longer. That'll help you drag. I will say, though, this is better. Your drag is a little better than your last video. So nice job. You're doing good work. I think the second thing that I want you to be aware of is what I call switching the hips. So right here, it's kind of like an attack position. You're pretty solid. You have bend in your knee. I like that. You're loaded. I like that. Your position's pretty solid. You even got a solid distance between your knees. So all that is good. But what happens is that right leg comes out and around. And again, you know this. you start moving in this direction. And what happens is a lot of times this position is tricky. And so we turn on our left foot and we are trying to get around the circle. But if this left foot isn't coming off the ground, so if this isn't coming off, then what's going to happen? The right has to get you off the ground. So if the left doesn't come off on its own, the right has to propel you into it. And so what you got to do is, again, what I call switching the hips. It's this transition. You want to keep this space between your knees. Just like you have it, this is good. But as that right foot is coming around, so as this is coming around, and as this left foot is making its turn, and you're coming into the circle, you need to actively think. Like right here, see where you're starting to come up a little bit? This is the point when you need to think left foot off the ground, right foot down. So they happen simultaneously. The only way to get the right foot down into the ring and keep from jumping is if your left foot comes off. So I literally think as that right is coming around, pulling the left foot off the ground. Again, you're not jumping off the left foot because then your left leg will straighten, and you don't want that. You don't want a straight left leg. You want to pull it off the ground with wide knees and with strong hips as you slam the right foot down in the middle. And that's going to create monster speed compared, because right now you don't quite know that. You get around, everything's turning good, but you jump a little and you're missing some of that energy that the right leg is creating. So again, any time we have upward movement, we slow down a little. And what we're doing, if you switch your hips, if the left comes off and the right comes down simultaneously, then you literally will move down into the ring, and then you don't lose any speed. Actually, you get monster speed. And then what that happens is that left foot will come off the ground super fast, and it'll come down super fast. And then your power position, everything will be a little bit different in the front. You'll be even stronger. And so these two things I'm talking about is where the low point is with your discus, and that strong hip position, the switching of the hips, so as the left comes off, the right comes down. Those work hand in hand. And keeping that discus lower a little bit longer, it's almost like thinking about keeping your shoulder down. You wouldn't really think about dragging the shoulder. Do that while your left comes off, right comes down with strong hips, and you're going to be twice as fast. The best thing to do here is just do some drills. I like to do it where you practice what it feels like to pop the left foot off and put the right foot down. And so it's just simply drilling this section, and all you got to do is just make something up. You just get into a South African position and then pop the left off, and see if you can learn what it's like to go down, down, down rather than up with the right leg. And but you'll get it. This is what it takes. So nice work, and I'll see you on the next video.